Another place where we're going to have our eyes is down in Houston, where we are careening towards one of the more remarkable situations in recent Texas high school football history.
I cannot wait to see this.
So, let's explain this. If you're not familiar with how the 6A playoffs break down in Texas, the 4 teams make the playoffs out of each district. The 2 teams that are biggest by enrollment go to Division I, the Division I bracket. That's where Allen plays and all the big heavyweights. And then if you're one of the smaller 2 teams, that is where you go to the Division II bracket. And so that's where Cedar Hill and Katy have played the past couple of years. There is a game this week between Katy Tompkins and Katy Morton Ranch. Now, all due respect to our friends at Tompkins and Morton Ranch, I don't think that either of them would be classified as a legit, lock-it-in state title contender. They certainly can. There's definitely talent on those 2 teams. But they could have more impact on how the playoffs break down than any other teams in the state this week, because if Tompkins beats Morton Ranch, it's not a lock, but it's almost certain that Katy, the perennial power Katy, will go to Division I, where they could be on a crash course with Allen. And here to talk about that and all things Houston area high school football is the Houston Chronicle's esteemed sports writer, Angel Verdejo. Angel, what's up, man?
I'm good. I like the word esteemed. Hopefully I can live up to that.
Well, listen, no pressure or anything, but so you've been around the block a number of times. You have written about the high school football in Houston for a long time. Have you ever seen anything like this, where a game between 2 teams that are going to finish 4th and 5th in their district could have such an immense impact on the state of Texas as a whole?
I will say it's weird how much steam this thing has picked up in the last 48 hours. I saw Straight Jesuit beat Morton Ranch about 3 weeks ago, and when I saw that win, it got the wheels turning, because Straight Jesuit, obviously being a private school, has a small enrollment, and Katy's always a school that has a lot of interest. So no, when that happened, I started thinking about it, and I believe it was the same weekend or the week after. That's when Tompkins, of course, new school with a small enrollment, they beat Seven Lakes. And then once those 2 things happened, at least the wheels down here started moving. And now everyone's paying attention. I will say I think this is a first. But, if you're Tompkins, you're glad everybody's talking about you.
Yeah, a new school, a program that's still kind of getting its feet underneath them. When you look at this game, which obviously has huge ramifications across the state, how do you break this game down? What are the keys? What are the keys for each team in this game?
When it comes down to Tompkins, second-year program, they're still a young team. They're playing good defense, but they're in that position of, we always talk about young teams don't know what kind of spotlight they're in, and I don't think Tompkins realizes just what everyone else is talking about around them. They have a coach who's kind of been around the block. He knows how to keep his team focused. He's very much a one game, one day at a time kind of coach, and he has those guys thinking that way. But you're playing the team in Morton Ranch, which has talent. It just hasn't always translated into the scoreboard and the win column. Anyone who pays attention to regional and state track knows that Morton Ranch has, on the regular, sent guys to region track, state track. I think they had a sprint champion in the 100, 200 a couple of years ago. So they're never lacking in talent. It's just finding a way to make that factor into points and to wins. When I saw them against Drake, a quarter and a half into that game, I would have told you that Morton Ranch was going to blow the doors off of Drake. Obviously, that's not what happened. But Morton Ranch has talent. It's just can that become points, or is Tompkins going to keep the game close enough to where all of a sudden they keep believing? Because a second-year team isn't supposed to be in the time. It happens, but not most of the time. But if it's a close game and you're Tompkins, you've been here. You've already knocked off a team that everyone thinks is going to be a playoff team in Seven Lakes. And now all of a sudden, you're playing a Morton Ranch team that's been in the playoffs recently, and you keep believing. And we all know that confidence breeds, everything. So if it's a close game, why not? And yet, if they get that win, then all of a sudden the entire state might get flipped upside down. At least if you're cheering for Manville, if you're cheering for Cibolo Steel, and if you're cheering for Katy and Allen to meet, if Tompkins manages to pull this off, all of a sudden the state becomes. I can only imagine what Twitter is going to happen on Friday when everyone sees that score.
We're talking with Angel Verdejo of the Houston Chronicle here on DCTF Live. Get involved in the conversation, hashtag DCTF Live. Angel, let's play the hypothetical game. Let's say Tompkins beats Morton Ranch, and let's say Katy goes to Division I, and let's say these are a lot of assumptions we're making here, and let's say Allen and Katy meet in the state title game at NRG Stadium the weekend before Christmas. 2 questions. 1, who wins? And 2, how many people are in the stands?
Well, as far as 1, if I had to pick a team this year, and only because I've seen Katy more than I've seen Allen, obviously, ask me today, I'll lean towards Katy because of what I've seen with their defense. Their defense has given up 18 points all season. They went into district giving up only a touchdown to the Woodlands. They gave up a late field goal to Katy Taylor and 8 points here recently. And the good thing about this defense is most of those guys have been on this team for the last 2 or 3 years. So, Colin Wilder, Patty Fisher, all those guys have played 16 games a year for the last 2 or 3 years. And so they've been there. They know what's going on. Not saying that Allen's going to, just let them win. We know Allen's very talented. We know that train hasn't stopped even without Kyler Murray. But, everyone likes to do with the whole defense win championships. And when you have a defense as good as them and Kyle Porter and that offense can do what it needs to do, I just like their chances, especially at home. I mean, we'll see if that has any advantage or not, but I think it could if you're only going 30 minutes down the road versus, I guess it's 4.5 hours down 45. As far as the attendance, and I think the reason everybody wants this to happen, I think we have a chance to really threaten and break that record, because especially if those two were to meet. Now, mind you, like you said, we have a lot of what-ifs, and even something I wrote for the Chronicle I put up yesterday, it's not even a sure thing, because Tompkins still has to play Katy next week, and I think the week after that they play Katy Taylor, who's down but still made the playoffs last year. So this win doesn't guarantee Tompkins' win doesn't guarantee what we want. But that said, if Katy and Allen were to meet in a state championship, Allen being a 3-time defending champ coming down, they're probably going to bring the house down from Allen. Katy always travels up north, so why wouldn't they travel 30 minutes to the east? So I think we have a chance to get upper 50s, maybe 60,000 people at NRG. I really think so.
The record, of course, 54,347 set back in 2013 for Allen and Pearland at AT&T Stadium. And, of course, you're not just the Katy expert around here. You're also an expert at all things Houston area high school football. What other games in the Houston area catch your eye this weekend?
The big ones that we're kind of looking at and we'll have bodies at, Kingwood's playing Atascocita. I think the Woodlands might be a notch above both. They've already beaten Atascocita. The Woodlands are going to play Kingwood. But both those teams are super talented. Kingwood runs the ball like nobody's business. They're big guys. Sue, who's going to TCU, it's kind of a 3-headed monster, and great at running the ball. Atascocita just attacks you small different ways. That's kind of pretty much going to decide probably second place in that district. If Kingwood has a chance to maybe knock off the Woodlands, it might be a 3-way tie for first. Who knows? That's a big one. Over in the game is at A-Leaf. You're going to have undefeated Hightower taking on an A-Leaf Taylor team who's unbeaten in district play. And, Hightower's really good, great defense. The offense has taken itself to another level. It struggled last year. It's working itself out. But A-Leaf Taylor's kind of a wild card. They're always a team that has talent. Like, come February, A-Leaf Taylor's going to have 4 or 5 Division I. That's nothing new. But that hasn't always translated into wins in the fall. So hopefully this is a team that can maybe break that mold. That's another big one. Another one we're covering that we're keeping an eye on is New Caney is going over to Crosby. Everyone knows how good Crosby is. They're ranked second in the state. They're first in Houston in Class 5A. New Caney's that new school on the block. They've been down for a long time, and I don't know if they can hang with Crosby, but they've already pretty much they're in the playoffs, and they're going to end the season with Crosby and Dayton. And if they can hold on, if they can keep from drowning the next 2 weeks and put on a good show, I think it'll prepare them to go into the postseason and maybe put a run together. Because you have a team in New Caney, they can score. We just don't know how well they can stop people, but they're going to put points all over the board. And then another notable game, just because it's a rivalry, down on the south side, Clear Springs is playing Clear Creek. Mm-hmm. The top 4 teams in that district are all playing each other. Friendswood's playing Dickinson, but Springs and Creek the fight for 518 because they're both on opposite ends of the same road, and it's always one of those crazy down to the wire kind of games. And you know how rivalry games work. It doesn't matter what records are, but it even pumps it up when they're both really good. More, the atmosphere is going to be better, and that's a game that's probably going to go down to the wire.
Yeah, absolutely. Clear Springs and Clear Creek going to be a fun one. Clear Creek just launched into our DCTF rankings on TexasFootball.com. Yep. He is Angel Verdejo. Check out his fine work at Chronicle.com, at the Houston Chronicle website, and check him out on Twitter at AHVerdejo. That's AHVERDEJO. I feel like I have to spell that. I know how it's spelled,
right?
But I want to help you out.
I have, but I got to spell it all the time too, so don't worry about it.
All right. Thanks, Angel. Appreciate you, man.
All right, y'all take care.